Rain had been falling for hours, a steady curtain of silver threads weaving over the dark asphalt. Streetlights flickered in the wet haze, casting pale reflections across the glistening road. It was the kind of night that seemed to carry secrets, the kind that demanded solitude and contemplation. In the midst of it all, a sleek black luxury car hummed along the empty highway, its engine slicing through the monotony of the rain. Behind the wheel sat Victoria Emerson, CEO of Emerson Technologies, a woman whose life was a testament to ambition and achievement. Yet, tonight, as the windshield wipers struggled to keep pace with the relentless downpour, even the most sophisticated engineering seemed powerless against fate. Her phone buzzed insistently, but she ignored it, pressing a gloved hand to the steering wheel as a sudden jerk in the engine made her heart lurch. Smoke curled from beneath the hood, and the vehicle shuddered to a halt. Victoria's pulse quickened, frustration mingling with the rare sensation of vulnerability. She was used to control, to power, to being the one who solved problems before they became crises. And yet, here she was, stranded on a desolate stretch of highway in the rain, entirely at the mercy of circumstance. She grabbed her phone, scrolling through contacts, debating whether to call her assistant or the roadside service. But deep down, she knew that waiting for someone to rescue her was not something she could afford. Not tonight, not when a crucial deal was hanging in the balance. With a sigh, she stepped out of the car, the rain immediately soaking her designer coat, her hair plastering itself to her face. She walked around the car, examining the smoke rising from the hood, cursing under her breath. From the shadows of a nearby gas station, a figure emerged. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with hands roughened by years of labor. His rain-soaked jacket clung to his frame, and there was a calm, almost patient determination in his movements. "Car trouble?" he asked, voice steady and warm, a subtle accent in the edges of his words that she couldn't place immediately. "Yes," Victoria said tersely, brushing wet hair from her eyes. "I think the engine overheated. I need it fixed quickly." He nodded, stepping closer. "I can take a look. You're lucky. It's not far from my workshop." Something about his presence felt familiar, though she couldn't immediately place why. There was a subtle tension in the air, like the moment right before recognition strikes. She studied him briefly, noticing the faint scar on his jaw, the way his eyes, deep and contemplative, seemed to assess her with careful calculation. "All right," she said finally. "Lead the way." The workshop was small but tidy, a reflection of someone who cared deeply about his craft. Tools gleamed under dim fluorescent lights, oil stains marking years of diligent work. He gestured toward her car, his movements precise, methodical. As he popped the hood, Victoria leaned against the wall, arms crossed, trying not to let her curiosity betray her. "Let me see what we're dealing with," he said, peering into the engine. His hands moved with practiced ease, checking connections, twisting wires, testing components. Victoria found herself watching him more closely than necessary, memories of someone long forgotten flickering at the edges of her mind. There was a familiarity in the set of his shoulders, in the way he worked silently, confidently. "Victoria," the sound of her name, spoken softly, made her freeze mid-breath. She turned sharply, her eyes widening. He was looking at her, a small, incredulous smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Is it really you?" Her heart skipped. She hadn't heard that voice in years, not since the summers of her youth, not since the days before ambition had hardened her world. "Daniel," she whispered, disbelief threading through every syllable. "Yes," he said, stepping back, letting his gaze travel over her like he was taking her in all over again. "Victoria Emerson, I can't believe it's you." For a long moment, they simply stared, the rain outside creating a rhythm that matched the rapid beating of her heart. Memories crashed over her. Laughter in sun-drenched meadows, stolen glances beneath the shade of old oak trees, promises whispered in the twilight that had once felt eternal. And now here he was, standing before her, more rugged, more worldly, yet unmistakably the boy she had loved with all her heart before life had intervened. "I didn't expect. I didn't think I'd ever see you again," she managed, her voice trembling slightly. "I could say the same," Daniel said softly. "Though I have to admit, seeing you in this context is surprising." His eyes flickered down at her designer coat, the expensive shoes, the unmistakable aura of wealth she carried like armor. Then they returned to her face, searching, questioning, reading years of unspoken words. Victoria started, then stopped. The weight of her life, the choices she had made, pressed down on her suddenly. She had climbed every rung of success, accumulated wealth, influence, and recognition. And yet, standing here, drenched in rain, faced with the person she had loved first and perhaps loved most, she felt stripped of all pretense. Daniel shook his head slightly, as if acknowledging the unspoken tension. "Don't worry about the car for a moment," he said, a small smile tugging at his lips despite the seriousness of his tone. "I'll fix it. You just sit for a moment." He worked silently, and Victoria found herself drifting, watching him, memories mingling with the present. She remembered the way he had once laughed when she had tried to impress him with her clumsy attempts at painting. She remembered the quiet courage he had shown when standing up for what was right, even when no one else would. She remembered the warmth of his hand in hers, a touch that had lingered in her memory far longer than she cared to admit. "Done," he said finally, wiping his hands on a rag. "There. Should run smoothly now." Victoria blinked, torn between relief and the storm of emotions raging within her. She wanted to reach out, to bridge the years, to tell him how much she had missed him, how often she had thought of him in lonely hotel rooms, in board meetings, in moments when her heart longed for something she couldn't name. "Thank you," she said, her voice quieter than she intended. "Really, thank you." Daniel nodded, a shadow crossing his features. "You don't have to thank me. I mean, it's just a car, Victoria. You're still the same person, I see. Just different." "Yes," she said softly. "Different, older, wiser, or so I like to think." He smiled faintly, and for a moment, the years seemed to collapse, leaving just the two of them, standing in a small workshop filled with the scent of oil and rain. Yet, beneath the nostalgia, there was tension, unspoken questions that neither knew how to ask. How had life led them here? Why now? And most importantly, could the fragile spark that had never truly extinguished survive the realities of their separate worlds? Victoria turned to leave, the familiar barrier of her professional poise returning, though now tinged with uncertainty. I should get going. Important meeting." Daniel's gaze followed her, lingering on her as if trying to memorize every detail. "Victoria," he said, his voice softer now, almost pleading. Will I see you again?" She hesitated, the memory of summers past whispering through her mind. For a fleeting moment, she considered saying yes, throwing caution to the wind, embracing a chance she hadn't thought possible. But the weight of responsibility, of her meticulously constructed life, pressed down on her shoulders. I don't know," she admitted finally, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, understanding, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of disappointment. "All right," he said, forcing a small smile. "But maybe fate will decide for us." Victoria gave a small, wry smile in return, then stepped out into the rain, the engine purring smoothly behind her. As she drove away, she couldn't shake the image of Daniel's face, the surge of old emotions, and the gnawing question that would not leave her. Could the first love she had lost in pursuit of everything else still be waiting for her somewhere in the future? For the first time in years, Victoria felt her heart unguarded, raw, and achingly alive. And somewhere deep down, she knew that tonight was only the beginning. The night the rain had returned, the night fate had intervened, and the night the past had caught up with her, was destined to change everything. As the city lights shimmered in the distance, Victoria's mind replayed every stolen glance, every whispered promise from her youth, mingling with the sight of Daniel's face, the mechanic who had once been her entire world, and perhaps still was. Somewhere between the choices she had made and the life she had built, a thread of possibility remained, fragile but undeniable. And that thread, she realized, was enough to make her hope again. Because sometimes, life had a way of reminding you that the people you never truly forget, never truly leave.